Before you decide how long you're going to stay with this video, let me tell you something quietly. There is a reason you are hearing these words now. Not earlier today, not tomorrow, not another night. Now. Because Allah does not always change your life with events. Sometimes He changes it with a realization. And tonight, I want to leave you with a question you will still be carrying when this video ends. A question that may explain why certain people disappeared from your life. Why certain places stopped feeling like home. Why certain desires quietly died inside you without you forcing them to. But I will not give you that answer yet. Because if I tell you now, it will sound like words. And Allah doesn't work through words alone. He works through recognition. So as you listen, I want you to notice something. Notice which parts of this message feel like they are speaking directly to you. Notice which moments make your chest feel heavy. Notice which lines feel like they are describing something you've never told anyone. Because by the time you reach the end of this video, you may realize Allah wasn't taking something away from you. He was preparing you for something you were not yet strong enough to carry. And when that becomes clear, the way you see your past, your pain and your position in this world will never be the same again. So don't listen to this like content. Listen to this like a moment Allah scheduled. Because the last thing I will share with you tonight is not something you will hear in a video. It's something you will recognize in your own life. And once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. Allah is teaching you that your heart is also a trust, not just a tool. There was a time when you believed your heart existed only for others. You believed it was something you were supposed to give away, piece by piece, day by day, until there was almost nothing left for yourself. You believed that being good meant being available, that being kind meant always saying yes, that being patient meant staying silent even when something inside you was slowly breaking. You carried their pain even when your own shoulders felt tired. You listened to their worries even when your chest felt full. You stayed strong even when inside you felt weak, just so they could feel safe. And every time you felt tired, you told yourself, this is what Allah loves. Every time you felt hurt, you whispered, this is sabr. Every time you felt invisible, you said, this is kindness. And yes, Allah loves the one who is gentle. Allah loves the one who helps. Allah loves the one who shows mercy to others. But Allah never created you to disappear inside your goodness. He never gave you a heart so it could be used until it no longer knows how to feel. He never placed life inside you so you could slowly lose yourself trying to hold everyone else together. Your heart is not just a tool. It is not just something to be used, emptied and filled again by the world. Your heart is an amana, a trust, something Allah placed in your care before He ever allowed anyone else to touch it. Think about that for a moment. Before anyone called you by your name, before anyone loved you or hurt you, before anyone entered your life and left it, Allah placed this heart inside you. He shaped it. He gave it the ability to feel. He gave it the ability to love. He gave it the ability to be soft, to be strong, to be patient, to be hopeful. And when Allah gives something, it is never meaningless. So when you treat your heart like something small, something unimportant, something that can be stepped on and ignored, you are not just hurting yourself, you are forgetting the value of what Allah gave you. Sometimes you give so much that you forget to ask, who is taking care of me? Sometimes you listen to everyone else's pain, but you never speak about your own. Sometimes you keep smiling so others don't feel uncomfortable, even when inside you feel like crying. You become the strong one, the reliable one, the one who is always there. And people get used to that version of you. They get used to you carrying the weight. They get used to you understanding. They get used to you forgiving. They get used to you staying. And slowly, without realizing it, they stop asking how you are. Not because they are always bad, not because they always mean harm, but because you taught them that you will always be okay. And deep inside, something in you starts to feel tired. Not tired in the body, tired in the soul. You wake up one day and you feel heavy for no clear reason. You sit in places that used to feel warm and now they feel empty. You speak to people you love and your words feel like they don't reach them anymore. And you ask yourself, why do I feel like this? What is wrong with me? Nothing is wrong with you. Something is waking up inside you. Sometimes Allah allows your heart to become tired, not because you are failing, but because you have been carrying more than you were meant to carry. There is a difference between being patient and being crushed. Patience is trusting Allah while walking through hardship. Patience is holding on to faith while waiting for ease. Patience is staying kind without losing yourself. But hurting yourself to keep others comfortable is not patience. Staying in places that slowly empty you is not worship. Letting your heart be stepped on and calling it sabr is not what Allah asks from you. Allah does not want you to bleed silently in the name of being good. Sometimes you give so much love that you forget that you also need love. Sometimes you give so much understanding that you forget that you also deserve to be understood. Sometimes you give so much mercy that you forget that Allah also wants you to show mercy to yourself. And that is when Allah begins to slow you down. He makes your heart feel heavy. He makes your energy feel low. He makes your soul feel tired. Not to punish you, but to make you stop. Because if you never stop, you will keep giving until there is nothing left. And Allah did not create you to become empty. He created you to be alive. There are moments when Allah pulls you away from the noise of the world, just enough so you can finally hear your own heart. You begin to notice how you feel after certain conversations. You begin to notice how you feel in certain places. You begin to notice how you feel around certain people. Some spaces leave you calm. Some spaces leave you heavy. Some people leave you closer to Allah. Some people leave you further away from who you want to be. And slowly, gently, without any loud signs, Allah starts teaching you something simple. Pay attention to what touches your heart. Because your heart is not just flesh. It is the place where your faith lives. It is the place where your intentions grow. It is the place where your connection with Allah is felt. So when you keep placing it in spaces that harden it, darken it, or exhaust it, something inside you begins to change. You become quieter. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you are tired of speaking where you are not heard. You become more careful. Not because you stopped caring, but because you started caring about the right things. You begin to choose where your emotions go. You begin to choose where your time flows. You begin to choose where your energy rests. And at first, this feels strange. You feel guilty for saying no. You feel selfish for stepping back. You feel uncomfortable for not being everything to everyone. But this is not selfishness. This is awareness. This is you realizing that you are not just here to survive for others. You are here to live for Allah. There are moments when Allah teaches you through feeling. He lets you feel what it is like to be taken for granted. He lets you feel what it is like to give without receiving. He lets you feel what it is like to be strong for everyone, but weak alone, not to break you, but to show you where you have been placing your heart. And when you finally see it, something changes. You stop chasing the people who don't protect your peace. You stop explaining yourself to those who don't try to understand. You stop staying in spaces that pull you away from the person you want to be with Allah. You begin to treat your heart the way you would treat something precious. You don't throw it anywhere. You don't leave it unguarded. You don't place it in careless hands. Not because you became cold, but because you finally understood how valuable it is. And that is when you begin to feel a different kind of strength. Not the strength of always being available, not the strength of always being nice, but the strength of being true to what you feel, true to what you need, true to what brings you closer to Allah. You realize that you can still be kind without being broken. You can still be gentle without being drained. You can still be patient without being erased. And this is where Allah wants you to be. Not hard, not closed, not distant, but balanced. A heart that gives but also rests. A heart that loves but also protects. A heart that helps but also heals. And when you begin to live like this, you notice something beautiful. Your connection with Allah feels lighter. Your prayers feel more honest. Your faith feels more real because you are no longer pouring from an empty cup. You are finally letting Allah fill you too. And the more you honor your heart in the way Allah wants, the closer you will feel to Him. Not because you gave less to the world, but because you finally remembered something important. You belong to Allah before you belong to anyone else. And the heart He placed inside you was never meant to be lost in the crowd. When you begin to understand that your heart belongs to Allah before it belongs to the world, something inside you starts to soften in a new way. You stop waking up with the same heavy feeling. You stop carrying every problem that was never meant to live inside you. You stop feeling responsible for fixing everyone around you, not because you stopped caring, but because you finally learned what your role is and what Allah's role is. You realize that you can support people without saving them. You can listen without losing yourself. You can love without disappearing. This is a quiet kind of wisdom that does not come from books. It comes from being tired. It comes from being hurt. It comes from being patient longer than you should have been. Sometimes Allah teaches you through what you feel, not what you hear. You start to notice the small signs. How your chest feels tight when you walk into certain places. How your heart feels calm when you step away from certain conversations. How your soul feels lighter when you choose silence over another argument. These feelings are not random. They are part of how Allah guides you. Your heart is not just something that feels. It is something that recognizes. It recognizes what brings you closer to Allah. It recognizes what pulls you away from Him. It recognizes what helps you grow and what keeps you small. And when you begin to listen to that recognition, you begin to walk differently through life. You stop rushing into everything. You stop reacting to every word. You stop answering every call for your energy. You become slower, not slow in movement, slow in giving access. You pause before you open your heart. You pause before you commit your time. You pause before you pour your emotions into someone or something. And this pause is not fear, it is respect. Respect for what Allah placed inside you. There was a time when you thought being good meant being available all the time. You thought if you were not there, people would leave. You thought if you said no, people would forget you. You thought if you stepped back, you would be alone. But Allah shows you something gentle and powerful. Some people stay not because you give them everything, but because they value who you are. And some people leave not because you became distant, but because they were only there for what you could give, not for who you are. And when those people leave, it hurts. It always hurts. But in that pain, Allah is cleaning space in your heart. Space for peace. Space for sincerity. Space for connections that don't drain you, but grow with you. Sometimes Allah removes people not as a punishment to you, but as a protection for your heart, because not every hand that holds you is meant to guide you. Not every voice that speaks to you is meant to lead you. Not every presence in your life is meant to stay. And when you understand this, you stop chasing what is leaving. You stop begging for what does not want to stay. You begin to stand still and trust that what is meant for you will find you without you losing yourself to keep it. This is not pride. This is tawakkul. Trusting Allah enough to believe that you don't have to break your heart to keep a place in someone else's life. There are moments when Allah shows you your worth in a very quiet way. Not by giving you more people, but by giving you more peace. You sit alone, and instead of feeling empty, you feel calm. You walk away, and instead of feeling lost, you feel light. You say no, and instead of feeling guilty, you feel honest. And you realize something beautiful. Peace feels better than approval. Calm feels better than attention. Being close to Allah feels better than being close to everyone. You begin to see your heart differently. You stop treating it like something that exists to be used. You start treating it like something that exists to be protected. You don't let every word enter it. You don't let every situation live inside it. You don't let every person shape it. Because you understand now, your heart is where your faith lives. And faith needs a safe place to grow. There are nights when you sit quietly and you think about how much you used to give, how much you used to hold, how much you used to carry. And instead of feeling proud, you feel gentle with yourself. You say, I tried my best. You say, I did what I knew at the time. You say, Allah saw me even when no one else did. And in that moment, something inside you heals. Not because the past changes, but because you stop blaming yourself for being kind in a world that didn't always protect kindness. You realize that your softness was never a mistake. It just needed guidance. Guidance to know where to stay. Guidance to know where to step back. Guidance to know when to give and when to guard. And this guidance does not come as a loud voice from the sky. It comes as a feeling in your chest. It comes as a heaviness you can no longer ignore. It comes as a calm you feel when you finally choose yourself for the sake of Allah. You start to build small, quiet boundaries, not walls, boundaries. You don't announce them. You don't explain them to everyone. You simply live them. You leave earlier. You speak less. You choose differently. And the people who respect you adjust. The people who only benefited from you disappear. And in that space, Allah places something better, clarity. You become clear about what you accept. You become clear about what you need. You become clear about what you want your heart to become. And slowly, gently, your relationship with Allah deepens. Because now, when you stand in prayer, you are not just asking Him to fix the world around you. You are asking Him to protect the world inside you. You say, Ya Allah, guard my heart. Ya Allah, don't let me love what pulls me away from you. Ya Allah, don't let me stay where my soul becomes smaller. And these du'as are not signs of weakness. They are signs of awareness. You are aware that your heart can be shaped. You are aware that your heart can be influenced. You are aware that your heart can be guided. And you choose to place that guidance in the hands of Allah, not in the hands of people. There is a quiet kind of strength in this. A strength that does not shout. A strength that does not prove. A strength that simply stands. You walk through life softer but steadier. Kinder but clearer. More open but more careful. And people begin to feel something different about you. Not because you changed into someone else, but because you finally became yourself in the light of Allah. You no longer give from a place of fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of being replaced. You give from a place of fullness. Fullness of faith. Fullness of peace. Fullness of knowing that what is written for you will never miss you. And this is what it means to honor the heart Allah gave you. Not by closing it, but by placing it in safe hands. First in the hands of Allah. Then in the hands of those who treat it with care. And when you live like this, you begin to feel something you may not have felt in a long time. A gentle kind of peace. Not the peace that comes from everything being perfect, but the peace that comes from knowing that even when things are not perfect, your heart is in the right place with Allah. And that is enough. The discomfort you feel is Allah repositioning you, not rejecting you. There are moments in your life when you walk into a place that once felt warm, and suddenly it feels cold. You sit in a room that used to feel safe, and now your chest feels tight. You speak to people who once understood you, and now your words feel like they fall into silence. And you begin to ask yourself, what happened? What changed? Did I do something wrong? Sometimes the place did not change. You did, and not in a way that lowers you, not in a way that breaks you, but in a way that moves you forward. Allah does not always grow you with comfort. Sometimes He grows you with unease. That strange feeling in your chest when you walk into certain spaces, that quiet heaviness when you sit with certain people, that tiredness you feel after certain conversations, these are not random feelings. These are signs, not signs of rejection, but signs of repositioning. There was a time when you fit perfectly in certain places. You laughed there, you belonged there, you felt seen there, you felt understood there. And you thought, this is my place, this is where I will stay. But Allah sees further than you do. He sees who you are becoming, not just who you are right now. And sometimes the place that can hold the old version of you cannot hold the new one. Allah is building inside you. So He allows you to feel uncomfortable. Not to punish you, but to move you. There are people who stay in places long after Allah has already moved on from them. Not because they love the place, but because they are afraid of the unknown. They stay because at least the discomfort is familiar. But Allah does not want you to grow in a cage, even if the cage feels safe. So He gently begins to remove the sweetness. The laughter does not feel the same. The excitement fades. The connection weakens. And you start to feel like you no longer belong. And you think, why am I being pushed away? But you are not being pushed away. You are being pulled forward. Sometimes Allah makes a place feel heavy, so you don't make it your home. Sometimes He makes a connection feel distant, so you don't build your future on it. Because if He left it comfortable, you would stay. And if you stayed, you would stop growing. There are seasons in life when Allah allows you to outgrow what once held you. And outgrowing something does not always feel like happiness. It feels like loneliness. You look around and realize that the people who once walked beside you are now behind you. You don't feel better than them. You just feel different. Your thoughts are different. Your values feel stronger. Your heart wants different things. And this difference can feel painful. You start to wonder, why do I feel alone even when I am surrounded? Because Allah is teaching you something very gentle. Not everyone is meant to walk every part of your journey. Some people are meant for your beginning. Some are meant for your middle. And very few are meant for your destination. And when you reach a new level in your life, Allah sometimes allows the old surroundings to fall away so you don't mistake them for where you are meant to stay. There are moments when you wake up and you feel restless for no clear reason. You haven't done anything wrong. Nothing bad has happened. But inside you, something feels unsettled and you can't explain it. That restlessness is not anxiety. It is movement. It is your soul sensing that where you are standing is no longer where you are meant to remain. Allah places that feeling inside you so you don't become comfortable in a place that will limit who you can become. Sometimes He moves you without changing your location. You still live in the same house. You still walk the same streets. You still sit with the same people. But inside you, something shifts. The conversations no longer feed you. The routines no longer excite you. The dreams you once had no longer fit your heart. And you begin to feel like a stranger in a place you used to call home. That feeling hurts. Because you don't just lose a place. You lose a version of yourself. You lose who you used to be there. And Allah knows that this kind of loss is painful. But He also knows that staying in a place that no longer grows you is more painful in the long run. Sometimes Allah takes away your sense of belonging before He gives you a new one. Because if He gave you the new one while you were still attached to the old, you would never let go. So He loosens your grip first. He makes you feel less connected, less comfortable, less settled. And in that space, He creates room for something better. There are moments when you look at others around you and they seem happy where they are. They seem comfortable. They seem settled. They seem content. And you wonder, why can't I feel that way? Because Allah is not building you for the same place. He is not shaping you for the same path. Your journey is different. Your calling is different. Your destination is different. So what feels enough for them will not feel enough for you. And that does not make you ungrateful. It means Allah has placed something inside you that is still looking for where it truly belongs. Sometimes Allah makes you uncomfortable around things that once satisfied you. You used to enjoy certain habits. You used to laugh at certain things. You used to chase certain goals. And now they feel empty, not because they became wrong, but because you became deeper. And shallow water no longer quenches a deep thirst. So Allah allows you to feel that emptiness. So you don't keep drinking from something that will never truly satisfy you. There are moments when you want to go back to how things used to be. Back to how you used to feel. Back to when everything felt simple. But Allah does not move you forward so you can live looking backward. Sometimes what you call the good old days were just days when you did not yet know what you were meant for. And now that Allah has shown you more of yourself, you cannot unsee it. So the place you are in feels too small for the person you are becoming. And that smallness feels like discomfort. But that discomfort is actually growth. There are moments when you feel like you don't fit anywhere. Not fully here, not fully there. You feel in between. And that space feels lonely. But that in between is often where Allah works the most. Because when you are not attached to where you were and not yet settled in where you are going, your heart becomes more open to Him. You begin to lean on Allah more than on people. You begin to talk to Allah more than you talk to the world. You begin to find comfort in prayer instead of in places. And slowly, gently, Allah becomes your sense of belonging. Not a room, not a group, not a situation, but Him. And this is one of the most beautiful shifts in a believer's life. When your home stops being a place and starts being a connection with Allah, you begin to realize that no matter where you go, no matter who stays or leaves, if Allah is with you, you are never truly lost. Sometimes Allah makes you feel out of place in the world so you can feel more at home with Him. You stop trying so hard to fit in. You stop forcing yourself into spaces that don't welcome your growth. You stop shrinking so others can feel comfortable. And instead, you begin to stand where Allah places you, even if it feels unfamiliar at first. There is a quiet courage in that. The courage to walk into the unknown while trusting the one who sees the whole path. You don't always know where you are going, but you know who is guiding you, and that becomes enough. You begin to understand that rejection from a place is sometimes protection from becoming someone you were never meant to be. That being uncomfortable is sometimes a sign that you are being prepared for something greater. That being restless is sometimes a sign that Allah is calling you forward. So when you feel that heaviness, when you feel that distance, when you feel that quiet discomfort, don't rush to fix it. Sit with it. Ask Allah what He is showing you. Because sometimes the feeling you are trying to escape is the very thing that is guiding you to where you truly belong. Allah is teaching you that not every connection deserves access to your soul. There comes a moment in your life when you begin to realize something that is both painful and beautiful at the same time. Not everyone who walks into your life is meant to walk deep into your heart. There was a time when you believed that being open meant letting everyone in. That being kind meant sharing everything. That being sincere meant placing your soul in anyone's hands who smiled at you, who listened to you, who showed you a little warmth. You thought that if someone sat with you, they deserved to know you. If someone spoke to you, they deserved to hear your story. If someone asked, they deserved to see your wounds, your fears, your dreams, and you gave. You gave your words, you gave your time, you gave your trust. You gave pieces of your inner world without measuring how carefully they would be held. Because your heart is soft, because your intentions are clean, because you believe in goodness. And Allah loves that about you. But Allah also loves wisdom. Some people are meant to know your name. Very few are meant to know your soul. And Allah teaches you this, not through lectures, not through warnings, but through experience. You open your heart to someone and at first it feels good, it feels light, it feels safe. You speak about things you have never spoken about before. You share thoughts you have never shared with anyone. You show sides of yourself you usually keep hidden. And for a moment, you feel seen. But then something happens. A word you shared in trust comes back to you from someone else's mouth. A weakness you revealed becomes a joke. A fear you admitted becomes something they no longer take seriously. And suddenly, what felt safe no longer feels safe. And that moment hurts in a very deep way. Not because they said something, not because they did something, but because you trusted them with something that belonged to your soul. And in that pain, Allah is not watching you suffer. He is teaching you. He is teaching you that access to your inner world is not something everyone is ready for. Some people can walk with you in the light. Very few can sit with you in the dark. Some people can enjoy your laughter. Very few can carry your silence. Some people can celebrate your success. Very few can protect your vulnerability. And when you begin to see this, your heart becomes quieter. Not because you stop feeling, but because you start choosing where you feel. There are people who ask about your life not because they want to understand you, but because they want something to talk about. There are people who listen to your pain not because they want to help you, but because they want to feel important. There are people who walk close to you not because they care about your heart, but because they benefit from your presence. And Allah allows you to notice these things slowly. He sharpens your awareness. You begin to feel a small heaviness when you are about to open up to certain people. You begin to feel a quiet pause inside when you are about to share something personal. And you think, why am I becoming like this? You are not becoming closed. You are becoming guided. Your heart is learning the difference between someone who is curious about you and someone who is careful with you. There was a time when you thought everyone deserved to know everything about you. But Allah begins to show you that some parts of you are too sacred for careless hands. Your fears, your dreams, your struggles, your connection with Allah, these are not small things. These are parts of your soul. And when you place them in the wrong place, something inside you feels unsettled. You may not be able to explain it, but you feel it. You leave a conversation feeling lighter with some people. You leave a conversation feeling drained with others. You leave a space feeling closer to Allah in some moments. You leave a space feeling further from Him in others. And Allah is teaching you to pay attention, because not every smile is safety. Not every listener is a guardian. Not every presence is a protection. Sometimes Allah lets you get hurt, not to break you, but to teach you where your heart should not go. There are people who enjoy the surface of who you are, your humor, your kindness, your generosity, but they are not meant to hold the depth of who you are. And when you try to give them that depth, they drop it. Not always because they are evil, sometimes because they simply don't know how to carry something that heavy. And Allah knows this, so He teaches you gently. He lets you feel what it is like to be misunderstood. He lets you feel what it is like to be exposed. He lets you feel what it is like to wish you had stayed quiet. Not to make you silent forever, but to make you selective. There is a difference between being open and being unguarded. Being open means you are kind. Being unguarded means you place your heart anywhere. Allah wants you kind. He does not want you careless. There comes a moment when you begin to choose your words more carefully. You stop sharing every thought. You stop explaining every feeling. You stop revealing every wound. And again, you feel guilty. You think, am I becoming cold? Am I becoming distant? But Allah whispers to your soul, you are becoming wise. Wisdom is not about building walls. It is about knowing which doors to open and which ones to keep closed. Some people are meant to walk beside you. Some are meant to walk behind you. And some are only meant to pass by. And when you try to make everyone stay, you end up carrying people who were never meant to go the whole journey with you. And that weight becomes heavy. So Allah begins to lighten your load. Not by making people disappear suddenly, but by teaching you to not give everyone the same access to your heart. You start to understand that just because someone is close to you physically, it does not mean they are close to you spiritually. Just because someone talks to you every day, it does not mean they deserve to know your inner world. Just because someone smiles with you, it does not mean they will protect you when you are vulnerable. And this understanding changes the way you move through life. You still greet people with kindness. You still treat others with respect. You still give goodness where you can. But your soul becomes more careful. You begin to place it in hands that treat it gently. Hands that remind you of Allah, not pull you away from Him. Hands that protect your weakness, not use it. Hands that celebrate your growth, not feel threatened by it. And when you find those people, you don't need many. 1 or 2 is enough. Because a small circle that protects your heart is better than a large crowd that drains it. And Allah, in His mercy, often reduces your circle as He increases your depth. The fewer people who truly know your soul, the safer your soul becomes. This does not make you lonely. It makes you peaceful. Because now, when you speak where you are heard. When you share where you are safe. When you open your heart, you open it where it is protected. And this is not you becoming distant from the world. This is you becoming closer to Allah. Because the more carefully you guard your soul, the more space you create for His presence inside it. When Allah makes you tired of explaining yourself, He is teaching you to stand without permission. There comes a quiet moment in your life when you begin to feel something shift inside you. You don't announce it. You don't explain it. You don't even fully understand it. You just know you are tired. Not tired of people, not tired of life, but tired of explaining yourself. There was a time when you felt the need to make everyone understand you. You explained your choices. You defended your intentions. You justified your growth. You tried to show people why you were changing, why you were stepping back, why you were no longer the same person they once knew. And every explanation took a piece of energy from you. You would speak and speak and speak, hoping that if you used the right words, they would finally see your heart. But often, they didn't. They heard what they wanted to hear. They believed what fit their own story. They judged based on their own fears. And you walked away from those conversations feeling smaller than when you entered them. And Allah watched. He watched every time you tried to prove your sincerity. He watched every time you tried to protect your name. He watched every time you tried to explain your healing to people who were comfortable with your pain. And slowly, gently, He began to take something away from you. Not your voice, but your need to use it for everyone. One day, you wake up and you realize you don't have the strength to argue anymore. Not because you lost the ability to speak, but because you found something more powerful than speaking. You found peace. You sit in a moment where someone misunderstands you and you don't rush to correct them. You hear a story about yourself that is not true and you don't chase it. You feel someone pull away from you because you changed and you don't run after them. And at first, this feels strange. It almost feels wrong. You think, shouldn't I explain myself? Shouldn't I defend my heart? But Allah is teaching you something deeper. Not everyone is meant to understand you. Some people only knew the version of you that was useful to them. Some people only liked the version of you that stayed quiet. Some people only accepted the version of you that did not grow. And when you begin to become something more, something stronger, something closer to Allah, they feel uncomfortable. So they ask questions, they make comments, they create stories. And before, you used to step into those moments trying to fix how they saw you. But Allah begins to teach you a new kind of strength. A strength that does not react. A strength that does not prove. A strength that does not beg to be understood. You begin to realize that your journey with Allah does not need approval from people. Your healing does not need permission. Your growth does not need an audience. Your boundaries do not need an explanation to everyone. There are things in your life that are between you and Allah alone. Why you stepped back? Why you said no? Why you chose a different path? And not everyone deserves access to those reasons. Sometimes, when Allah makes you tired of explaining yourself, He is protecting you. Because every time you explain, you open a door. And not everyone who walks through that door comes with care. Some come with judgment. Some come with doubt. Some come with words that sit in your heart and disturb your peace. So Allah teaches you to close some doors, not out of anger, but out of wisdom. You start to understand that silence is not always weakness. Sometimes silence is strength that does not need to show itself. You begin to stand in who you are becoming even when others don't understand it. You make choices that feel right in your heart even when they don't make sense to people. You walk away from spaces that drain you even when others call you distant. And you don't explain. You simply walk, and in that walking, something inside you becomes steady. You no longer shake when someone questions your intentions. You no longer feel small when someone doubts your growth. You no longer feel the need to defend your closeness to Allah because you realize something very calming. Allah knows you. He knows why you changed. He knows what you went through. He knows what you carry in your heart. And if Allah understands you, you don't need everyone else to. There are moments when you stand alone in your decisions. People around you choose a different path. They make different choices. They follow a different pace. And you feel the pressure to explain why you are not walking with them anymore. But Allah teaches you to stand without permission, to be okay with being the only one in the room who chooses differently, to be okay with being misunderstood for a while. Because sometimes clarity does not come to people immediately. It comes with time, and sometimes it never comes. And that is okay. Your responsibility is not to be understood by everyone. Your responsibility is to be sincere with Allah. There is a quiet dignity in this. A dignity that does not raise its voice. A dignity that does not argue. A dignity that simply remains firm. You begin to carry yourself differently. You speak less, but with more meaning. You move slower, but with more intention. You choose carefully instead of quickly. And people notice. Not because you announce it, but because something about you feels settled. You no longer chase reactions. You no longer seek validation. You no longer adjust yourself to fit every space. You stand as you are, and that standing becomes a form of worship. Because you are standing in the version of yourself that Allah is shaping. There are nights when you sit quietly and you think about how much you used to explain, how much you used to defend, how much you used to try to be seen correctly, and you feel a gentle smile inside. Not because you became careless, but because you became free. Free from needing everyone to agree with you. Free from needing everyone to approve of you. Free from needing everyone to stay. You realize that the people who are meant to walk with you will not need a long explanation. They will recognize your heart. And the people who are not meant to walk with you, no amount of explanation would have kept them anyway. So you rest. You rest in Allah's understanding. You rest in His knowledge of your intentions. You rest in the peace of knowing that even when the world does not see you clearly, Allah sees you perfectly. And this is one of the most powerful forms of strength, to stand without shouting, to grow without announcing, to walk without needing permission. Allah is replacing your need to be chosen with the ability to choose. There comes a moment in your life when you begin to notice a quiet change inside your heart. It does not come with a loud announcement. It does not come with a dramatic moment. It comes softly, almost like a whisper. You realize that you no longer feel the same hunger you once felt. The hunger to be noticed, the hunger to be chosen, the hunger to be seen, valued, and prioritized by others. There was a time when you waited. You waited for a message. You waited for an invitation. You waited for someone to remember you, to include you, to make space for you. And when they did, your heart felt light. And when they didn't, your heart felt heavy. You measured your worth by how often you were called. You measured your value by how quickly you were replied to. You measured your place in people's lives by how much they needed you, and you didn't even realize you were doing it. You thought this was normal. You thought this was human. You thought this was just how life works. But Allah was watching your heart. He saw how much you gave. He saw how much you waited. He saw how much you stayed in places that did not always protect you just because you wanted to be wanted. And slowly, gently, He began to heal something inside you. Not by giving you more people, but by giving you more strength. One day, you wake up and you feel something different. You don't reach for your phone the same way. You don't wait for certain names to appear. You don't feel that tightness in your chest when you are not included. And you ask yourself, what happened to me? You didn't become cold, you became whole. There was a time when being chosen by others made you feel alive. But now, you begin to feel alive by choosing yourself in the way Allah wants you to. You start to notice what feels right in your heart. You start to notice what feels peaceful. You start to notice what brings you closer to Allah. You start to notice what leaves you calm instead of anxious. And slowly, your choices change. You choose where you go. You choose what you accept. You choose what you walk away from. Not based on who will approve, but based on what will protect your Iman. This is a very quiet kind of freedom, because before, your heart was always reaching outward. Now, it begins to stand inward. You stop asking, do they want me? And you begin to ask, is this good for my soul? And that question changes everything. There are moments when someone pulls away from you. And before, that would have shaken you. Before, that would have made you chase. Before, that would have made you wonder what you did wrong. But now, you feel something different. You feel calm. Not because you don't care, but because you trust Allah more than you fear losing people. You begin to understand that if someone is meant to stay in your life, they will not require you to break your heart to keep them. And if someone is meant to leave, no amount of chasing will make them stay in the way that truly protects you. This understanding does not make you distant. It makes you steady. There are times when you choose to walk away from a situation, not because it is loud, not because it is dramatic, but because it is quietly draining you, and you don't announce it. You don't explain it to everyone. You simply step back. And in that stepping back, you feel something you did not feel before. Relief. Because you realize that staying just to be chosen was costing you your peace. There are moments when someone offers you a place in their life, but only on their terms. Only if you stay small. Only if you stay silent. Only if you stay convenient. And before, you might have accepted. But now, something inside you pauses. You ask yourself, what is this costing me? And sometimes, the answer is your peace. Sometimes, it is your values. Sometimes, it is your closeness to Allah. And when you see that, you choose differently. You choose to step away instead of stepping in. And this choice feels strong. Not strong in the way the world understands strength, but strong in the way Allah understands it. Because you are choosing what protects your faith over what feeds your ego. You are choosing what brings you closer to Allah over what brings you closer to people. There are moments when you sit alone, and before, that loneliness felt heavy. It felt like something was missing. But now that quiet feels different. It feels like space. Space to breathe, space to think, space to talk to Allah. And in that space, you begin to realize something beautiful. You are not alone. Allah is with you. And when Allah is with you, you do not need to be constantly chosen by the world. There are moments when people move on. They find new circles. They find new routines. They find new lives. And you watch from a distance. And before, that would have hurt deeply. Before, that would have made you feel left behind. But now, you feel something softer. Acceptance. You realize that not everyone is meant to walk the same pace as you. Not everyone is meant to walk the same path as you. And that is okay. Because Allah is walking with you. There is a gentle strength in knowing that your worth does not rise and fall with people's attention. Your value does not change based on who remembers you. Your place in this world is not decided by who includes you. It is decided by Allah. And when that truth settles in your heart, something inside you becomes unshakable. You no longer beg for space in people's lives. You no longer chase doors that are closing. You no longer adjust yourself to fit where you have outgrown. You stand where Allah places you, and you trust that where He places you is where you are meant to be. There are moments when someone chooses you. They show up, they care, they stay. And now you receive that with gratitude, not with desperation, because you are no longer starving for being chosen. You are simply thankful when you are, and that changes the way you love. You love freely, you love calmly, you love without fear of losing, because your heart is no longer hanging on to people, it is anchored in Allah. And this is what it means when Allah replaces your need to be chosen with the ability to choose. You choose peace over pressure. You choose faith over fear. You choose what brings you closer to Allah over what brings you closer to attention. And in that choosing, you find something the world cannot give you. A quiet, steady dignity. A calm, unshakable peace. A heart that knows its worth not because people proved it, but because Allah placed it there. The silence around you is Allah clearing space for your real voice. There comes a season in your life when the world around you begins to grow quiet, not because nothing is happening, but because less is reaching you. The messages slow down, the calls become fewer. The rooms you once walked into with noise and laughter now feel still. And at first, this silence feels heavy. You sit with it and you think, why does it feel like I am being left behind? Why does it feel like everyone else is moving and I am standing still? But Allah is not leaving you. He is making space for you. There was a time when your life was full of voices. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone had advice. Everyone had something to say about who you should be, what you should do, how you should live. And you listened. You tried to keep everyone happy. You tried to adjust. You tried to fit into every expectation that was placed on you. And slowly, without realizing it, your own voice became quieter. Not because you had nothing to say, but because you were surrounded by too much noise. Sometimes Allah looks at your life and sees that there is no room for Him to speak. So He begins to reduce what surrounds you. Not in a harsh way, not in a painful way, but in a gentle, quiet way. People drift. Conversation fade. Invitations stop coming as often, and you find yourself alone with your own thoughts more than you ever have been before. And that can feel uncomfortable, because when you are alone, you can no longer escape yourself. You can no longer distract your heart with laughter, with plans, with company. You sit in the quiet and you begin to hear things you ignored before. You hear your doubts, you hear your hopes, you hear your fears. You hear your prayers, and Allah listens too. There are nights when you sit and your mind feels full, but the room feels empty. And in that emptiness, something special begins to happen. You start talking to Allah the way you talk to no one else. You speak honestly. You speak without a mask. You speak without trying to sound strong. You say things like, Ya Allah, I am tired. You say, Ya Allah, I don't know where I'm going. You say, Ya Allah, I feel lost. And Allah does not turn away from those words. He welcomes them, because the silence around you is not there to make you lonely. It is there to make you real. There are moments when you walk through your day and you notice how different things feel. You notice how you don't rush to share everything anymore. You notice how you don't react to every comment. You notice how you don't feel the need to fill every quiet moment with sound. You begin to enjoy the stillness, not because life became empty, but because your heart became aware. You start to feel closer to yourself. You begin to understand what you actually want, not what everyone else wanted for you. You begin to see what brings you peace, not what only brings you attention. And in that understanding, Allah is shaping your real voice. Not the voice that repeats what others say, but the voice that comes from your faith. There are moments when you realize that when the room is loud, it is easy to forget Allah. But when the room is quiet, it is hard to ignore Him. You hear His reminders in your thoughts. You feel His presence in your calm. You sense His guidance in your pauses. And that changes the way you move through life. You stop rushing into things. You stop reacting quickly. You stop filling your time just to avoid being alone. You begin to move with intention. You choose your words carefully. You choose your actions thoughtfully. You choose your path slowly. And people notice something different about you. Not because you became louder, but because you became steadier. There is a kind of strength that comes from being comfortable in silence. A strength that does not need to be seen. A strength that does not need to be heard. A strength that simply exists. You begin to understand that not every moment needs a response. Not every situation needs a reaction. Some moments are meant to be felt, not fixed. And in that, Allah is teaching you patience in a new way. Not the patience of waiting for something to change, but the patience of sitting with yourself while Allah changes you. There are days when you miss the noise. You miss the company. You miss the familiar voices. And that is human. Allah does not ask you to stop feeling, but He asks you to notice what the silence is giving you. It is giving you time to reflect. It is giving you time to heal. It is giving you time to grow. There are thoughts that only rise when everything else is quiet. There are realizations that only come when no one else is speaking. There are prayers that only reach the heart when the world steps back. And in this season, Allah is giving you something rare. He is giving you space. Space to become who you are meant to be without the pressure of who everyone else wants you to be. You start to feel less pulled by the world and more guided by your faith. You start to feel less controlled by opinions and more anchored in purpose. You begin to trust your connection with Allah more than your connection with people. And that is a beautiful shift. Because when your heart learns to rest in Allah, it does not panic when the world becomes quiet. It listens. There are moments when you realize that the silence is not empty. It is full of understanding, full of clarity, full of a closeness to Allah that you did not have when everything was loud. You begin to feel that Allah is closer to you in these quiet moments than He ever felt in the crowd. And that changes how you see being alone. You no longer see it as being left. You see it as being invited. Invited into a deeper relationship with Allah. Invited into a clearer understanding of yourself. Invited into a stronger, calmer version of your faith. And this is what it means when the silence around you becomes a gift. Not a sign that you are forgotten, but a sign that Allah is working with you closely, gently, personally. Allah is teaching you that peace is more valuable than being liked. There comes a moment in your life when you begin to notice a quiet shift inside your heart. You start to realize that being liked no longer feels as important as it once did. There was a time when you wanted to be accepted everywhere. You wanted to be welcomed in every room. You wanted to feel included in every circle. And because of that, you learned how to adjust yourself. You laughed at things that didn't sit right in your heart. You stayed silent when something crossed your values. You went along with moments that made your soul feel uneasy, just so you wouldn't feel left out. And you told yourself, it's not that serious. You told yourself, I'm just being easy. You told yourself, this is how you keep peace. But there is a difference between keeping peace in a room and keeping peace in your heart. Sometimes in trying to make everyone comfortable around you, you slowly make yourself uncomfortable inside. You leave gatherings feeling tired instead of calm. You walk away from conversations feeling heavy instead of light. You sit alone afterward and wonder why something inside you feels unsettled. And Allah watches. He watches every time you swallow your values to avoid conflict. He watches every time you hide your faith to avoid being judged. He watches every time you stay quiet when your heart wants to stand. And gently, without force, He begins to change what you desire. You start to feel less excited about being liked and more drawn to being at peace. There comes a moment when you sit in a room full of people and instead of feeling happy, you feel distant. Not because the people are bad, but because the space is not aligned with who you are becoming. And you realize something simple but powerful. Peace is not found in blending in. Peace is found in being true. True to what you believe. True to what you value. True to what brings you closer to Allah. There are moments when you stop yourself before saying something just to fit in. You pause. You breathe. You choose silence instead of agreement. And that silence feels strong. Not loud. Not dramatic, just steady. You begin to understand that not every laugh is worth joining. Not every invitation is worth accepting. Not every space is meant to hold you. And this understanding does not make you proud. It makes you careful. Careful with your words. Careful with your time. Careful with your presence. Because you realize that wherever you go, your heart goes with you. And if your heart leaves a place feeling smaller, weaker, or further from Allah, then that place is costing you something precious. There are moments when people notice that you have changed. They say, you're so quiet now. They say, you don't come around like you used to. They say, you're different. And for a second, you wonder if that is a bad thing. But then you feel something inside you that you did not feel before. Calm. A calm that does not depend on approval. A calm that does not rise and fall with people's opinions. A calm that stays with you even when you stand alone. You begin to realize that being liked is temporary. Today they clap. Tomorrow they question. One day they celebrate you. Another day they misunderstand you. But peace stays. Peace sits with you when the room is empty. Peace walks with you when no one is watching. Peace rests in your heart when you stand in front of Allah. There are times when you choose to step away from a space, not because there is a fight, not because there is anger, but because there is a quiet feeling inside you that says, this is not good for me. And you listen to it. And that listening feels like strength, because before you would have stayed. You would have laughed it off. You would have told yourself, it's fine. But now you choose differently. You choose to go home early. You choose to sit alone instead. You choose to open the Quran instead of opening another conversation. And in those choices, you feel something settle inside you. You feel aligned. Aligned with what you believe. Aligned with who you want to be. Aligned with the kind of person you want to stand before Allah as. There are moments when you are misunderstood for this. People think you are distant. They think you are judging. They think you are better. And that hurts because you are not trying to be above anyone. You are just trying to be honest with your own heart. But Allah sees your intention. He sees that you are not walking away from people. You are walking toward peace. And there is a beautiful kind of courage in that. The courage to be the only one who doesn't laugh. The courage to be the only one who leaves. The courage to be the only one who says, this is not for me. That courage does not come from pride. It comes from faith. Faith that Allah's pleasure is more valuable than people's praise. Faith that Allah's closeness is more important than being included. Faith that Allah's approval is worth more than any room you could walk into. You begin to feel lighter, not because life became easier, but because your heart became clearer. You stop carrying the weight of everyone's expectations. You stop trying to be everything to everyone. You stop bending yourself into shapes that don't feel true. And in that freedom, you begin to feel closer to Allah. Your prayers feel more honest. Your words feel more real. Your faith feels more alive. Because now you are not performing, you are connecting. And this is one of the quiet miracles of the heart. When Allah teaches you that peace is more valuable than being liked, when He teaches you that standing alone with truth is better than standing in a crowd without it, when He teaches you that a calm heart in His presence is worth more than 1,000 smiles in the world, choosing yourself for the sake of Allah is how you finally come home. There comes a moment in your life when everything you thought this journey was about begins to feel smaller than what it truly is. You look back at the people you lost. You look back at the places you left. You look back at the versions of yourself that no longer exist. And for a long time, you believed all of this was about them, about who stayed, about who walked away, about what changed. But slowly, gently, Allah opens your eyes to something deeper. This was never just about the world around you. It was about you, about who you were becoming in the quiet moments, about who you were learning to be when no one was clapping for you, about who you were turning into when you had to walk alone with only Allah beside you. There was a time when you thought choosing yourself meant choosing comfort. You thought it meant choosing what feels good, choosing what feels easy, choosing what feels safe. But Allah teaches you something very different. Choosing yourself for His sake often means choosing what is right, not what is easy. It means walking away from what feels familiar but harms your heart. It means letting go of what you love when it pulls you away from Him. It means standing in places that feel lonely because they feel clean. And that kind of choice is not loud. It is quiet. It is slow. It is made in the privacy of your own chest. There are moments when you sit alone and you think about all the times you stayed when you should have left. You remember how you ignored the tight feeling in your heart. You remember how you silenced your conscience. You remember how you told yourself, it's fine, when it wasn't. And instead of feeling shame, you feel something softer now. Understanding. You understand that you were doing the best you could with the strength you had at that time. And Allah was watching you then, just as He is watching you now. He did not turn away from you when you were confused. He did not abandon you when you were weak. He walked with you through every step of your learning. And now you are standing in a different place. Not just a different situation, but a different heart. Your heart feels slower. Kalmer. More careful. You don't rush into things the way you used to. You don't attach the way you used to. You don't chase the way you used to. And this is not because you stopped feeling. It is because you started seeing. You see how easily the heart can be pulled. You see how quickly the soul can be influenced. You see how much your faith can be shaped by where you place yourself. And because you see this now, you move differently. There are moments when you choose to sit with Allah instead of sitting with the world. You choose prayer over presence. You choose quiet over noise. You choose reflection over reaction. And these choices do not always look impressive to people. No one applauds you for staying home. No one celebrates you for saying no. No one praises you for walking away in silence. But Allah sees. He sees every small choice you make to protect your heart. He sees every moment you step back from what weakens you. He sees every time you choose Him over something you wanted. And in His sight, these are not small things. These are returns. Returns to your fitrah. Returns to your sincerity. Returns to the version of you He created before the world began to shape you. There are moments when you feel like you are losing pieces of your old life, old habits, old friendships, old desires. And for a while, that feels like loss. But one day, you realize something beautiful. You were not losing your life. You were finding yourself. Not the self that the world praised. Not the self that people expected. But the self that Allah recognizes when you stand in prayer. The self that speaks to Him when no one else is listening. The self that tries again after falling. The self that still believes even when it is tired. There is a special kind of peace that comes when you stop running from who you truly are. You stop pretending. You stop performing. You stop wearing masks for different rooms. You begin to live as one person, the same in public, the same in private, the same in front of people, the same in front of Allah. And that unity inside you feels like coming home. There are moments when you sit quietly and you realize how much you have changed. You are not as reactive. You are not as restless. You are not as desperate for connection. And instead of feeling proud, you feel grateful. Grateful that Allah did not leave you where you were. Grateful that He kept guiding you even when you didn't understand the path. Grateful that He kept calling you back to yourself. Because this journey was never about becoming someone new. It was about returning to who you were always meant to be. A servant who trusts. A heart that turns back. A soul that seeks Him even when it gets tired. And in this return, you feel something settle deep inside you. A feeling that you don't need to chase the world anymore. You don't need to prove your worth. You don't need to hold on to what is leaving. You don't need to become someone else to be accepted. Because you are already accepted by the one who created you. And that acceptance is enough. There is a quiet joy in knowing that no matter how far you wander, Allah's door is always open. No matter how many times you fall, His mercy is always closer than your mistakes. No matter how lost you feel, He always knows exactly where you are. And when you choose yourself for His sake, what you are really choosing is Him. You are choosing His guidance over your desires. You are choosing His pleasure over people's praise. You are choosing His closeness over the comfort of the crowd. And in that choice, something beautiful happens. You don't just find peace, you find belonging. Belonging not to a place, not to a group, not to a moment, but to Allah. And that is what it means to finally come home. Let me bring you back to the very first moment you pressed play tonight. Not to the screen, not to my voice, but to your heart, because something inside you chose to stay. You didn't stay because this was just a video. You stayed because parts of your life were quietly being named. Parts of your pain were being understood. Parts of your journey were being seen without you ever having to explain them. And if you are still here, it means something inside you recognized something true. You didn't just listen, you walked. You walked through memories you tried to forget. You walked through moments you thought meant failure. You walked through feelings you once believed meant Allah had turned away from you. And now, standing here at the end, let me tell you something gently. Allah never turned away. Every step you took back, every time you felt tired, every moment you felt out of place, it wasn't distance, it was direction. There are seasons when Allah does not give you answers. He gives you awareness. He makes you see what no longer fits your heart. He makes you feel what no longer belongs in your life. He makes you notice what pulls you away from who you are becoming. And that noticing, that is guidance. So if tonight felt heavy, it's because something inside you was being released. If tonight felt calm, it's because something inside you was being healed. If tonight felt personal, it's because Allah knows the parts of you that no one else ever sees. Before you leave this moment, I want to leave you with something simple. Not advice, not a lesson, not a rule, a reminder. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. Prepared to carry a version of yourself that is stronger than the one who began this journey. Prepared to walk into spaces you once would have shrunk inside. Prepared to let go of things that once controlled your heart. And Allah did not rush this process, because He was not just changing your situation. He was shaping your soul. So when you return to your life after this, to your room, your phone, your people, your responsibilities, walk back quietly. Not with pressure, not with fear, but with trust. Trust that every closed door you remember now protected you. Trust that every delay you questioned was building you. Trust that every moment you felt alone was a moment Allah was closer than you realized. And if one day the world becomes loud again, if your heart becomes tired again, if you forget what you felt here tonight, don't come back to this video. Come back to Allah. Sit with Him. Speak to Him. Let your heart rest in Him, because the peace you keep looking for in people, the safety you keep searching for in places, the belonging you keep hoping for in moments was always waiting for you in Him. So go gently, choose wisely, and walk forward knowing this. You are not walking alone. Allah is with you. In every step you take, in every choice you make, in every version of yourself, you are still becoming. Amen.